Hello and welcome to episode 53 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. Today we'll be continuing our celebration of the first full year of the podcast by continuing our conversation with Sarah from Seattle and Marisa from Chicago. They're two of my absolute favorite people in the Disney community, and they've been so gracious with their time over the past year to join me for the vast majority of these episodes. Before we get started, I want to talk about two things that are coming up on the horizon. First of all, I'm currently preparing for a 620-mile pilgrimage on the Ireland Way later this year. And one of my motivations for the walk is to raise money and awareness for the nonprofit organization Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence. If you check the description for the podcast, you'll see a link to donate. Whatever you can afford would be a huge honor, and I would really appreciate it. I've been volunteering for Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence for a year now as well, and I'm so impressed with how much good I've seen them do in that time. In the months leading up to this, I'll probably have a full episode on this journey, and I'm positive we'll do one after I return. Getting a base of donations, however, will give me the legitimacy when I start approaching businesses and bigger donors shortly. So like I said, I would really appreciate it. Secondly, I want to give you something for the 1-year anniversary of the podcast. It's taken a long time, but I put together a really great giveaway package. Starting next week, I'll be asking a different question at the end of each episode for the rest of February. That will be the episodes airing February 10th, 17th, and 24th. Go to the YouTube channel and answer that week's question in the comments for that week's episode. If you're a subscriber to the YouTube channel, you'll get 3 entries for a correct answer and 1 entry for an incorrect answer. This means you can get a maximum of 9 entries if you answer each question correctly. Unfortunately, I can only send the package to addresses in the United States, so please keep that in mind. If you live internationally and want to enter, just make sure you know somebody with a U.S. address who would allow me to send the prize to them on your behalf. The questions will be specifically about the people who are on the podcast regularly, and if you've been listening this whole year, you probably already know the answers. That being said, we want it to be easy for new listeners to get the right answers as well, so we'll be posting clues on the Twitter page, twitter.com/TGTTpodcast. Go follow that page right now and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll pick the winner with a random number generator on March 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll announce the winner on the March 3rd episode of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Available in the prize package will be a Haunted Mansion Hitchhiking Ghost popcorn bucket, a Disney Plus Day baseball cap, Disney Plus Day buttons, a Universal Halloween Horror Nights face mask from the canceled version of the event from 2020, select annual pass holder buttons from Universal Orlando Resort, a Walt Disney World annual pass holder magnet, Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom cards, a Chewbacca pin, a Figment plate from Epcot's International Flower and Garden Festival, a Figment spork from Epcot's International Festival of the Arts, and so much more. I've been adding more and more items for almost as long as we've been doing the podcast. All of these things were either purchased by me or I got them for free at Disney or Universal as a regular guest or annual pass holder. These are my personal items, and this giveaway isn't associated with either company. Now that I've got all that out of the way, I want to welcome back Sarah and Marisa. You can hear the first part of our talk in episode 52, but we left off with me having just mentioned Mr. Toad's Wild Ride in my last answer, and that's important context as we get started. Marisa, what are some of your most memorable experiences in the Disney parks that have really solidified the sense of connection you have to these theme parks?
Oh, you just said Mr. Toad, which made me think of something, which then leads into this, which is not necessarily a happy memory, but it's a funny one in retrospect. So when I was like 4 years old, almost 5, Disneyland, my very first trip, one of the very first rides my family did was Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, because my parents were like, this is an iconic ride. You got to do it. Let's put our child on it. And now my sister is 3 years younger than me. She didn't care about this ride at all. She was totally fine. I was terrified. I vividly remember the part where like it looks like you're going to get hit by a train. I can picture it in my head, and I got off that ride crying, and I was like, this is the worst. Why would you do this to me? This is horrible. And I like flat out refused to go on it for a few years. And then when I finally did go back on it, I was much older, and I was like, really, this is what I was afraid of. This is ridiculous. But it's something that my family loves to joke about. Even to this day, we still laugh about it. How just absolutely terrified I was on like my very first Disney ride. And my parents were like, oh no, did we make a mistake bringing her here? Is she going to be scared of everything? And I wasn't. I really wasn't. I just didn't like almost getting hit by a train. But that's just such like a classic, iconic memory for my whole family now. Just a little funny one. But one more recently that really I love. A couple years ago, I went to Disney with my parents, and they hadn't been back since I was 9. So this was their first trip back. And we were all super excited. And, you know, this whole time, my parents were like, I'm so glad the three of us are going, but it would be really nice if your sister could come as well, and we could have a family vacation. We haven't done that in a while. And little did they know, I had been on the phone with my sister going, hey, can you come? Like, can we make this work? Can you surprise them? And so we were able to work it out. My parents had no idea that she was coming with us. And so we got off the plane, and I'm like trying to film them and make it not seem like I'm filming them for this. I'm like, oh, you know, what are you looking forward to? And we're talking. And my dad's like, I'm really excited to be here, but man, I wish Chloe was here. That would be really nice. And we're walking down towards Magical Express, and my sister comes up behind them and is like, hey, what are you doing here? Oh my gosh, that was just one of the best memories I think ever, just seeing their reactions to that. And then of course we got to have a whole vacation together, which, you know, like Rick, you were saying earlier, as you get older, and, you know, I had just gotten out of college, my sister was in college, and so it's hard to find that time to take a family vacation. And so being able to set aside that time and really just kind of spend it at Disney, where you are in a bubble and the outside things really don't affect you, was really nice. And we got to go to Halloween party. It's the first time we ever did that. That was so much fun. Like all these little memories, such an amazing thing to recreate with them as adults. And if I can ramble on for just one more minute, one of my
You're good.
favorite things when I was a kid, my dad every year would enter this contest with a local radio station to win a trip to Disney World. This was like his thing. Every year entering this contest, hoping maybe one day we'd win a trip. And of course we never did, because what are the odds of that? So they were like, whatever, we're just going to plan a trip. We're going to go. So we were set to leave the day after Thanksgiving, which is when they announced the winners. And my family's getting ready. We're all, you know, kind of hectic, getting ready to go leave to my grandparents' house for Thanksgiving, when all of a sudden we start getting a bunch of phone calls, and the phone will not stop ringing. And so finally my dad manages to answer it. And it's this total stranger saying, turn on the radio, call in, you won a trip to Disney. And we could not believe it. We were like, oh my God, we did what? And we turned on the radio and we're like, mom, get down here. And she's like running downstairs and she's like, what's going on? And we're trying to tell her. And so my dad calls in and he's like, is this real? Did we really win this trip? So we ended up being able to go back to Disney World the very next year, which is the reason we went there twice as kids. And that was like, what are the odds of that? You know, the day before we leave for our very first trip. So then that whole trip was really exciting because we got to look at things and say, we get to do this again next year. Like we get to come back and do this again. This is amazing. This is so incredible. I don't know. I love that story. It's just like, what are the odds? 1 in a million chance. And yeah, we got lucky.
So cool. That's so cool.
Sarah, how about you?
Unfortunately, my family never won anything cool like that. That is awesome though. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. I'd be like, best vacation ever.
It
Even
was.
though we paid for this one.
Yeah, I still can't believe it. Like, oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
I mean, me and my mom, I feel like went more often than my whole family, just because her work schedule is more flexible and things like that. So we go for Easter and we go for this, and my dad and my sister be like, okay, bye, like fine, leave us home. So I mean, I love going with my mom because my mom's just super laid back and is like, whatever, let's just do this. We did a bunch of tours and things, like we do like the walk in Walt's footsteps. Some of my favorite memories, though, I think, is as a kid. One of them is my aunt and uncle didn't have kids right away. And so they would come with us. And so like my first trip ever, they came with us and they were pretty young. So it's like one of my mom's youngest sisters. And so it was always really fun to like see those photos and remember that like on the trips we came to visit, that if my parents weren't there, because they just, I mean, it was the 80s and the 90s. So they just stuck us on an airplane and we're like, bye, have fun. And we're like 6 years old, right? So it's like, hope for the best. You guys will be, you're good. And, but my aunt and uncle, I mean, taking us would be so much fun. And especially if both me and my sister were there, because as we got older, just one of us would go. My sister was like, I have too many things to do. I'm 10 years old now. I don't need to go vacationing. So, but too, I remember one thing I love is when my whole family goes. So I had been through this terrible breakup when I was in my late teens, and I was having a really hard time emotionally. And I remember just going to my parents. I'm like, I think we should go to Disneyland. Like, I think we should just go. Like, it'll be fun. We'll go. And we did a few months later. And it happened to be Disneyland's 50th anniversary. It was me and my dad, my sister, and my mom, and my parents on the airplane. They're like, just so you guys know, this is the last family vacation we are paying for. From now on, y'all are paying your own way. But it's so fun to think back that, I mean, we have all our cool like 50th anniversary Disneyland gear, and we have all these pictures in front of the castle. And my dad is huge into rides. Like, he loves rides. And so that's one thing that I always love, is my dad's up for anything. And so that always made it really special, is that it's like, some people don't want to go, no problem. But then my dad's like, but I'll go with you if you want to go. So that's one thing I love. And then like same thing with Disney World, is the last trip I went on was for my 30th birthday. And it was so awesome because my whole family went, and it was my husband's first time ever going to Disney World. So getting to experience that with him. I mean, there was a lot of us because it's my family plus him. So 5 of us, I guess that's not a ton, but it was really fun to get to see like my dad experience it, and my sister and my husband. Cause I think my sister and my dad, it was the first time they had gone as well. And a few months later, my dad had to be in Orlando for work, and they were giving out like end of day passes to the people at this thing to go to any of the Disney parks. Like if they wanted to go finish the rest of the day. It was so cool. And my dad starts texting us selfies with all the princesses. He had gone and waited in line. And he has pictures with all the princesses, and he got like the professional ones. And oh God, it was the best. It was, it made me so happy, even though I wasn't there. It was like, this is the best day ever. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that is the best.
Oh, so fun. It's so fun. And then of course my mom and dad have gone since then, just the two of them. Like he'll go, my mom's retired now, so he'll go for work. And my mom's like, well, I guess I'll go. And then all of a sudden they're like, guess where we are? I'm like, oh, must be nice. But yeah, so being around my family and watching my family experience things, it's just, I love it so much. I love it.
I think it's funny when you're 17 years old and you have this breakup and it's awful, and your family does something really nice and takes you to Disneyland. And now as an adult, you're like, wait, all I have to do is go through a breakup and I'd get a free trip to Disneyland? Like, I'd make that trade any day now.
Right.
Like, it seemed horrible at the time, but now you're like, that guy wasn't even worth it. Like, whatever. But Disneyland's expensive. Come on, I need that.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Maybe I should be trying this. Wait a minute. Just third or fourth one, though, I think they'll catch on. We'll be like, she's just doing this for Disney trips.
Out.
So I think one of the memories that I want to mention is that Courtney, my wife, never went when she was younger. She went to like one day, her uncle's company had like a day at MGM when she happened to live in the Orlando area. So I think she had like 1 or 2 days where she got to go to MGM, but she never went on a Disney vacation when she was a kid. And we moved to Arizona, so I drove out to Arizona when I lived in Pennsylvania. And I decided that since my mother lives in Florida, I'd stop, see my mother, hadn't seen her in a few years, And I said, if I drive down to Florida on my way to Arizona, will you buy us 2 days at Walt Disney World? I figured I'd see Walt Disney World and then head out west. So my mom and I did this trip, and I left and just got the bug again. I started watching the documentaries from the Travel Channel that you can find on YouTube, and then I started seeing Disney YouTubers, and it just got the bug again. And I said to Courtney a few days after I finally moved there, would you maybe want to do a vacation to Walt Disney World? And the first thing she said was, would I get to meet Snow White?
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can make that happen. So one of my favorite memories is then in 2018, we were still living in Arizona, and we made a week-long trip to Walt Disney World. That Tuesday, we were at Epcot, and Snow White was meeting in the Germany Pavilion. And there was some bad weather in the area. The cast members were saying, she might not be able to come out if there's storms in the area, blah, blah. But I was like, I'm waiting here. This was the first thing that she said. When I said, you want to go to Walt Disney World, she said, do I get to meet Snow White? So that was happening. There was no way I wasn't going to have her meet Snow White on that trip. So that's one of those specific memories that I have of Walt Disney World in particular. I did not go to Disneyland as early as the two of you did it. I didn't go to Disneyland until I lived in Arizona. I didn't really do Disneyland as like a vacation until I was there with Sarah just last year. I can't believe we're already saying it was last year, but
right.
So my memories of that park are so very recent, and getting to experience things at Disneyland that I think the two of you might take for granted, like seeing Walt's office on top of the fire station, seeing the magic shop where Steve Martin was a cast member, California Adventure in general, the good version of Pirates of the Caribbean, just all of those things that I never really got to experience until I was an adult, so I don't have those childhood memories. And then the childhood memories that come rushing back when you ride Mr. Toad's Wild Ride or Snow White's Scary Adventure when I rode that before the re-theme. Those brought back all those memories from Walt Disney World from when I was a kid because I didn't know that those things disappeared. I just went in 2005 with my friend and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride wasn't there anymore. I didn't even think that was possible. So that's something about Disneyland that I'm always going to cherish, sort of getting to relive those memories from when I was a kid at Walt Disney World. Sarah, when was the last time you were at Walt Disney World?
It was 7 years ago in September because it was for my 30th birthday and I just turned 37. Yeah, I've been counting the days.
You said that you stayed at Caribbean Beach, correct?
That is actually the only on-property resort that I've stayed in. I mean, I've been to Walt Disney World 3 times in my life, and we loved it so much when I went with my mom and her best friend that we were like, well, let's go. We'll just stay there next time. Make it easy.
And you've never stayed on property at Disneyland?
Yes, I have. I have stayed at the Disneyland Hotel multiple times and Paradise Pier, which is a nice hotel, but I don't recommend unless you want to walk.
That is definitely a problem with Paradise Pier, that it is an on-property hotel that is further away from the park entrances than off-property hotels.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. For as much as you pay, it's like, give me a tram. Come on. A little tram through downtown Disney.
Yeah, I definitely don't recommend Paradise Pier for people staying at Disneyland. If you're going to pay the money and you can afford the Grand Californian, then stay at the Grand Californian because it's the greatest Disney hotel probably in the world. If you can stay at the Disneyland Hotel, that's probably worth it, and Sarah can speak more towards that. But there are so many affordable options that are closer than Paradise Pier. So
yeah, and Disneyland Hotel, it's the nostalgia as well because the way they've refurbished it. So when I was a kid, the first time I went, the monorail went straight to the hotel. So you could catch it at the hotel, similar to, isn't it the Contemporary at Walt Disney World where it stops like in the middle of it? It used to be like that. It doesn't do that anymore, but the signage and all the stuff that they have there now is so similar to way back when of the old Disneyland hotel. So that's one really cool thing about staying there.
So you have those 3 resorts where you have stayed on Disney property. Which
Correct.
one is your favorite?
Disneyland Hotel. I think it definitely is. I love it. I mean, the times that I've stayed there, I love everything about it. It's a walk. It definitely is a walk, but every hotel is a walk. So if I'm going to stay on property, I would probably stay there. I mean, one day I would love to stay at the Grand Californian. It is beautiful, but it is pricey.
So I apologize, Sarah, because I used you a little bit, because this was just a lead in to asking Marisa what her favorite on-property hotel was, because I know her answer and we agree on this one.
I was going to say, I think you can probably guess this one. It's Wilderness Lodge, which was the first place I ever stayed at Disney World. And I will never, ever forget the first time I walked into that lobby and looking around and thinking just how absolutely incredible it was. And then, of course, as the years go by, and it becomes kind of like a childhood memory, you start thinking, is it really that good? Or like, was I just kind of imagining that? Like, was it part of the childhood charm? I just hadn't stayed at many hotels at that point. And then I went back as an adult and it's the same, maybe better, walking back in and you still have that beautiful grand lobby, so many great food options, 2 wonderful pools. There's just something about it that has such a charm to it where you feel like you're kind of hidden away from the hustle and bustle of Disney World, but you're still close enough where it's so convenient. And, you can take that boat over to Magic Kingdom, which is such a nice perk, but it's just so relaxing. And I think it really helps strike that nice balance of like, go, 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 and okay, calm down, relax, that you need on a Disney vacation. So if you can, I highly, highly recommend staying there. That's just the best.
I 100% agree with Marisa, and that is why I teed her up for that answer, because I love Wilderness Lodge. Even if it is too pricey for you on your budget, if you're doing a week at Walt Disney World, make a reservation at Whispering Canyon Cafe, or just mobile order from Roaring Fork, the quick service restaurant. Get to park there or take the transportation there and just walk around and enjoy the resort.
I was going to say Geyser Point is great too. If you're in Magic Kingdom and you just want to have a nice lunch outside the park and kind of rest a little bit, it's right on the water. It's beautiful and relaxing and great food as well.
So I'm just going to do a little quick fire thing, and then I'm going to let both of you go. We have all been to 6 Disney parks thus far. We'll do more. We'll all do more. I'm going to give you the park, and you're going to tell me your favorite ride and dining option.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's so tough.
So hard.
Are you ready?
As I'll ever be.
Yeah.
Sarah, Disneyland Park.
Disneyland Park, favorite ride, Indiana Jones. Favorite dining option, oh my gosh. Blue Bayou.
I'm going to go with Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and Blue Bayou for Disneyland Park. Marisa.
Indiana Jones, I don't know enough about the dining at either of the Disneyland parks, but Indiana Jones for the ride.
Okay, and now we'll stay with you, Marisa. And since you don't know the dining, Disney's California Adventure, you just have to give us a ride.
Soarin'. Only one I remember doing there.
Sarah.
As of this last visit, I really think my favorite ride there now is Incredicoaster. When I rode it, single rider, that was a great one. And food from the last visit too is going to be Lamplight Cafe.
Lamplight Lounge. But that is definitely going to be my answer as well for dining at Disney's California Adventure. And for ride, I liked so many of the experiences at Disney's California Adventure, but it wasn't really the rides that impressed me as much. I really liked their version of the animation experience and some of those other things. I guess I'm going to have to agree with Marisa and go with Soarin' as my favorite ride there, because Sarah beat me so badly every time we did Web Slingers.
Yeah, I'm the master of Web Slingers.
She is really, really good at Web Slingers. And it bothers me. I think it's because she's married to a gamer.
It's true, which means I'm going to lose horribly when I finally take him there.
That is true as well, probably. So, Sarah, Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World.
Magic Kingdom, I would say favorite ride is their version of the Haunted Mansion. And food, to be honest, kind of like Marissa was saying about the others, I'm not really familiar with food because the only place I remember really eating are Be Our Guest, which I'm not a huge fan of, and the Gaston's Tavern. Was good, but I don't really have a favorite food place there.
Unfortunately, Magic Kingdom doesn't have the best food in the world. Yeah. I think I'm going to say, once again, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And when it comes to restaurants, I'm going to go pre-closure and say Pecos Bill, just because I really loved their Fixins Bar. I don't know if the Fixins Bar will ever return, and if they'll return to having some good plant-based options, but right now they don't even really have a good vegetarian option. So it's fallen off my list right now, but hopefully it will return to its former glory. Marissa, Magic Kingdom Park.
Ride, Big Thunder Mountain. Food, if I can say the Adventureland spring roll cart, then that's my answer. If I have to go with a restaurant, I'll go Columbia Harbor House. But yeah, Magic Kingdom doesn't have a whole lot of great options.
And that spring roll cart needs a plant-based spring roll. There is no excuse for them not having one.
That's such a no-brainer. It's so popular.
Sarah, Epcot.
Oh, this is tough. My favorite ride at Epcot, I think I posted this on Twitter the other day, is Test Track. Nobody hate me. I love Test Track. And my favorite food there is actually Beer Garden. I love Beer Garden, and the German food is the best to me.
Beer Garden is an answer I don't think a lot of people would give, but I've had 2 really, really good meals there, and I don't eat meat. So
yeah,
being able to get good plant-based options there shows that it is a quality restaurant. I just have a quick question. Have you experienced both versions of Test Track?
I honestly have no idea. It's been 7 years since I rode Test Track. You mean broken or not broken?
Did you get the Tron version, or was it
No, I didn't do the Tron version, and it was just the regular Test Track.
Okay, I'm really interested the next time you go if that's going to continue to be your option for Epcot, because I know Marissa and I really like the old version, the one that you experienced, a lot more than the newer version. Marissa, what do you have for Epcot?
I'm going to go Soarin' and Yorkshire County Fish Shop. I really love those fish and chips. They're so good.
Oh, good.
That is a really, really good answer as well, Marissa. I go back and forth. I could probably say 3 or 4 different rides as my favorite ride at Epcot. I so badly want to say Living with the Land, but I think I'm going to have to say Spaceship Earth just because of the nostalgia. And restaurant is really hard because I've gotten really into being at the festivals. I hardly ever eat at any of the Epcot restaurants anymore because there's always a festival happening. Do I love Via Napoli? Yes. I loved Tangerine Cafe back when that was still a quick service location. I love the spicy hummus fries at Spice Road Table, but we've had a whole meal at Spice Road Table, and I didn't necessarily like the other stuff as much. So I think I'm actually going to have a really off-the-wall answer here and say Regal Eagle Smokehouse. Might be my favorite restaurant at Epcot. It's really quality quick service. It's barbecue, so the people who love meat really, really love it, but there's a great plant-based option as well. It's Muppet-themed. Come on. You don't get any better than Muppet-themed. And the quick service at the U.S. Pavilion used to be garbage, just flat-out garbage. And now it's a quality restaurant, so just that step up is what is going to do it for me. This is going to be an unfair one for you, Sarah, and I know that you can give this answer if you want because you experienced almost the exact same thing at Disneyland, but it's up to you, Disney's Hollywood Studios.
So it definitely is Rise if it's almost exactly the same thing. If it's not Rise, then I really do love Rock and Roller Coaster. is another one that I do really enjoy. Food wise, I would have to say sci-fi is my favorite at Hollywood Studios. And a Brown Derby is a close second.
How about you, Marissa?
I'm just going to be copying Sarah on this one. So, yeah, Rise of Resistance, awesome. Rock and Roller Coaster, also awesome. Sci-fi is just the best experience. But then quick service, shout out to the Ronto Wrap, so good.
Yep.
So at Disney's Hollywood Studios, obviously it's unanimous. You have to say Rise. It is possibly the best, not my favorite, but the best Disney ride in the United States. And I have to go with Hollywood Brown Derby as the restaurant because it is tied for my favorite restaurant on Walt Disney World property. So it has to be my favorite in that park. But good looking out, Marissa, talking about Ronto Roasters, because now that on both the East Coast and the West Coast, there's a plant-based Ronto wrap now. That has really changed the quick service experience at Hollywood Studios.
Speaking of Hollywood Brown Derby, have you guys tried the grapefruit cake there?
Yes.
Okay, so see, Sarah, now you have to come back to Disney World for so many reasons, but that grapefruit cake alone is worth it. Oh my gosh, it's so
They
good.
had that when I was there. I don't even remember a grapefruit cake because we probably would have tried it.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's pretty big too, so you could split it or just eat it.
I went for my birthday in 2019. And I just wanted to get the Cobb salad. I get it without the turkey or the bacon or anything. I get it vegetarian, not plant-based. And they asked if we wanted any dessert. And I was like, no, don't need any dessert. It's already a pretty expensive meal. But being Disney and seeing that it was my birthday, they brought me a slice of the grapefruit cake. And now every time I go to Hollywood Brown Derby, I have to get the grapefruit cake. It is so good, and it doesn't sound like it should be good.
I think that maybe they have some sort of scam going on with that grapefruit cake, because the same thing happened to me. I went there in 2018 with my mom, and it was like the first time the two of us had ever done a trip, just us. And our waitress saw that. And so she brought us a slice of the grapefruit cake to celebrate. And now we can't go without getting it. This is how they hook you.
The cast members at Hollywood Brown Derby have like the same marketing scheme as drug dealers.
Right?
We will get them hooked. Okay, Sarah, Disney's Animal Kingdom.
All right. Favorite ride is not Dinosaur. But it is, it's a kind of a tie because I love Expedition Everest, but I also love Kilimanjaro Safaris. So that's a really tough one for me. But if I had to choose, I'm going to go with the thrill ride and say Everest. And food wise, my favorite is, what is it called? The barbecue place that they have there.
Flame Tree Barbecue.
Yes, Flame Tree Barbecue. That I would have to say is my favorite place to eat there.
Marissa, I want to hear your favorite ride, but I better hear the answer that I want for restaurant. And I think I will. But anyway, go.
So ride is tough because there are so many there that I love, but I do have to go with Expedition Everest. That's just such a good ride. And restaurant is a nice, even right down the middle split. And I'm kind of cheating, but they're the same place kind of, which is Tiffin/Nomad Lounge. Just the best food and such a cool experience. I love it.
I want to go there so bad. Like Tiffin's is like bucket list food for me.
The best. I want to go back so bad.
We were just looking before I got on this Zoom call with the two of you, and we were just looking at future availability, and I just keep seeing Tiffin's, and I keep wondering, how is it still available all the time? It's so good. Spoiler alert, my answer for restaurant is Tiffin's. It is what I have tied with Hollywood Brown Derby as best restaurant on property. And for ride, I'm going to go with Kilimanjaro Safari, but just like Marissa and Sarah, I could have very easily have said Expedition Everest. I could have said Dinosaur because, yes, I love Dinosaur, whatever.
Indiana Jones is better, though. Same ride system. No scary dinosaurs.
Indiana Jones is better. Okay, West Coaster, we know you have it better. You have a lot of rides better. You don't have to rub it in all the time. But I still hope, and I don't know if Marissa agrees with me on this, I still hope that they don't replace Dinosaur with Indiana Jones at Animal Kingdom. I do like having both of them.
Yeah, I like that it's something different and it gives me that extra excuse to go back to Disneyland to say, well, I need to try this because I can't do it at Disney World. Kind of justify it to myself, but it's nice having both of them.
And I don't know if I ever did answer it, but I'm going to say Kilimanjaro Safari as my ride for Animal Kingdom. It is the only ride at Walt Disney World that changes each and every time you ride it. Much like Jungle Cruise at Magic Kingdom or at Disneyland, your guide changes the experience each and every time. Your guide can make it an even better experience, but sometimes you see different animals in different locations. It really can be so different each and every time, and you don't get that on a lot of rides. I want to say thank you so much. These last 2 episodes of the podcast have been incredible, and this past year of doing the podcast, especially with the 2 of you, has been so awesome. I'm glad that we got to just sit down and talk about why we love it and not necessarily have to have a topic. So, Sarah, thank you so much for everything this past year.
Well, thank you so much for including me in all this amazingness of the podcast this last year.
And of course, Marissa, you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been so much fun being able to be a part of this, and it was a whole lot of fun recording this one too.
This has been episode 53 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. These past 2 episodes have been the most fun I've had while doing this podcast. The best part of having this show has definitely been the friendships I've developed with Sarah and Marissa from having these long Disney conversations. Next week, my wife Courtney will be back on the show so the 2 of us can discuss the first weekend of Mardi Gras 2022 at Universal Studios Florida. We're staying the weekend at Universal Orlando Resort and we'll be spending multiple days trying the food and experiencing the other entertainment. Until then, have a great week.